The Los Angeles Lakers have the 55th overall draft pick in this year's NBA draft, and many are wondering what they might do with it. Will they keep it? Will they trade it? Will they buy another draft pick with it? Maybe trade up and use that draft pick as part of it? Or what exactly will they do and who will they take? Now we've already talked about guys like Maxime Reynaud, Rocco Zikarsky, Amari Williams, and a few more, all of which are centers that are likely second round draft picks. But another player that's often been mentioned directly in my own comment section happens to be Hansen, a Chinese prospect and one of the biggest international players in this year's NBA draft, so many fans are intrigued with him, and that might include the LA Lakers. After all, they have a huge international fan base, and not only that, but have a face of the international game, that being Luka Doncic. So could they be looking to add to that? Could it be with Hansen, and would he be a good fit for their team? We'll talk about that and try to break it all down here. And to begin, I think it's important to note that he does happen to be a Clutch sports client, that being the agency ran by LeBron's best friend Rich Paul, and more often than not, that does give a player an inside track to the LA Lakers. Whether it be a draft pick or an already established NBA player, that does tend to give them a pathway to the team. And for Hansen, that could be either cracking their 15-man roster by being drafted, or potentially if you would go undrafted, making their team via two-way contract, which could be another pathway for him, and I definitely would not rule it out. So with that in mind here, could he be their draft pick? Could he end up on their team, and would he actually fit their team and what they need at center? Let's talk about it. So to begin, what the Lakers need at center, and kind of in the following order, would be number one, an athletic vertical threat, something that Luka likes to play with, kind of what he needs around him offensively. A vertical threat to give them vertical floor spacing, somebody for him to pass alley-oops to, and kind of give him a last-ditch option on offense. That's what Luka really likes, and also what their team kind of needs at this point too. Then after that, I'd say number two, a rim protector, something they really don't have at this point. After trading away Anthony Davis, they really didn't have one. Jackson Hayes kinda, but he's no longer under contract and might not be back with their team, so they definitely do need a rim protector. Then after that, kind of for the favorable options and ideally what they could get, would be a switchable defender. JJ Redick definitely likes that. If you're going to be on the court, and especially during the fourth quarter, then you gotta be able to move your feet on defense. Then after that, if you're not a switchable defender, you can make up for it and ideally could make up for it with 3-point shooting. Also something that Redick likes, with him liking to run 5-out offense, and ideally what they could have at center would be a floor spacing, switchable big man. But okay, great. Does Hansen fit any of that? Kind of not, and we'll talk about the parts that he does fit and the parts that he does not fit. But to give you an NBA comparison and kind of frame of reference here, I'd compare him to former NBA center Brad Miller. Maybe a name you've heard of, maybe not, but he does happen to be a former two-time All-Star, a very skilled big, a very good passing big, a guy that could both offer a little bit of rim protection and strong rebounding, passing, and occasional 3-point shooting. So kind of comparable to Hansen, and we'll talk about why. And to begin, we'll talk about his strength, then go to a weakness, and go through 3 individual ones each. And beginning with his strength, I'd say that would be his passing ability. Like I referenced there with Brad Miller, Hansen does happen to be a very good passing big man and has great vision for a big. That's something you can definitely point to with him. During his time in the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association, Hansen averaged 3.5 assists per game to roughly 3.3 turnovers per game. So a little bit of volatility there, but he did show off some good playmaking and passing ability. I think that'll translate to him being a very good DHO guy in the NBA. Maybe not a guy you run your offense through like a Nikola Jokic or Alperen Şengün, both of which he referenced and kind of compared himself to or who he liked to watch in the NBA, but I'd maybe compare him more to a guy like Domantas Sabonis out of DHO plays. Not exactly the offense ran around him, but simply handing it off and then rolling to the basket. That's something that Hansen can do. Again, a little bit of volatility here with the turnovers. Averaging over 3 per game is never good, and especially for a center. But overall, for the passing ability and the vision that he displayed on the court, both during his time in the CBA and during the draft combine, I'd say it's overall a strength for him and something that not many big men have, especially in this year's NBA draft. But then moving toward a weakness, and for him this would have to be athletic ability. Probably his biggest one, and the thing that stands out the most to me would be his athletic ability. both in regard to vertical ability, side-to-side movement, even north-to-south sprint speed, and overall again athletic ability. Hansen Yang is not a great athlete, which might be a problem for a team like the Lakers. Although he can be a lob threat purely from his height and overall standing reach, he's not a great athlete. He can't really jump up in the air and grab bad passes and pull them down and still dunk them. That's not his game. Or then defensively, even a bigger problem, will he be able to move side to side and even potentially switch on defense? Probably not. I mean, during the draft combine, he ranked in the bottom 5 among big men in all 5 strength and agility categories. Those being lane agility time, clocking in at 11.79 seconds, shuttle run time, clocking in at 3.01 seconds, 3/4 sprint, clocking in at 3.38 seconds, and then for standing and max vertical leap, having a standing vertical of 28 inches, and then only a max vertical of 30 inches. I mean, I wouldn't say anything here is outright terrible, but then again, nothing really was that good, even above average in my opinion, which is definitely telling and definitely worrisome for an NBA level center, and especially even more so for their team and what they need in my opinion. So definitely a big weakness for Hansen Yang. But then moving on to strength number 2 for him, and I would say this definitely have to be his overall rebounding ability. He is a very big center, and whether you're talking about his height, length, or overall frame, definitely is a pretty big guy. During the draft combine, he measured in at 7'1" barefoot, which is pretty impressive. Or then for his standing reach, having a 9'3" standing reach, but for his wingspan a little bit disappointing here, having a 7'2" and 3/4 inch wingspan, only about a 1 3/4 inch differential here, and that's not too great. Not terrible, but not very good in my opinion. But he might be able to make up for it with his very big hands, having both a top 3 hand length and top 3 hand width at the draft combine, measuring in for a hand length of 10 inches flat, second at the draft combine, and then for a hand width of 11 1/4 inches, third among centers and third overall at the draft combine, only falling behind Vladislav Golden and Ryan Kalkbrenner. So between that, then adding in a 252-pound frame, he should be a pretty good rebounder at the NBA level. During his time in the CBA, did average 10.7 rebounds per game in roughly 33 minutes per game, so pretty good, albeit at a lesser competition level, not facing off against NBA level bigs or the physicality in the NBA. Definitely not the same, and it might be a bit different for him, especially early on. But overall, I do think that rebounding will be a strength for him. Again, he's simply a very big player, and much like Zach Edey during his rookie year, rebounding was one thing that you can kind of count on him for, and I think that'll be the same with Hansen Yang if he gets on the NBA court and actually gets playing time. But then moving on to weakness number 2, and for him, I would say this would be shooting ability and overall potential shooting ability down the line. Yes, he did show some 3-point shooting ability in the CBA and during the draft combine, overall shooting 29.1% during his time in the CBA. Not too good, but showing a little bit of shooting ability here and there from the 3-point line, also knocking down a few mid-range shots and fadeaway shots in the post. But if you point to his free throw shooting, an often good indicator and good measurement of shooting potential in young big men, then I'm a little bit afraid for his long-term outlook. Only shot 64.7% from the free throw line in the CBA, which did come on roughly 440 free throw attempts, and that's a pretty good measurement and good benchmark for him. So I'm not too optimistic for his 3-point shooting outlook. Yes, he did knock down some of them at the CBA, knocking down 23 in total, again only at a 29.1% clip. Also knocked down some mid-range shots and some fadeaway shots in the post, but I'm overall not too optimistic about it. And combined with him not being a great athlete, also potentially not a good 3-point shooter or not a very reliable one, that's a little bit worrisome for his outlook. Gotta be able to do at least one in my opinion. If you're not a good lob threat or a great athlete in general, then you gotta be a floor spacing big man, which unfortunately he's really not at this point. But then for his third and final strength, that for Hansen Yang would be his low post scoring ability and overall footwork. Kind of a throwback big man, probably would have been a first round draft pick back in 2010 for example, but in 2025 and especially for rookie big men, that's not valued nearly as highly. Can be something they eventually prove and grow into, maybe the offense eventually gets put around them, but in their first year in the NBA, usually not. And for Hansen Yang, that might be difficult for him to break through with, but he did show quite a bit of it at the CBA, averaging 15.8 points per game, many of which directly came in the post and within 10 to 5 feet of the rim, shooting 56.9% from the field. Again, not too great from the 3-point line, but more so opposed low post scoring ability here. Does have some nice moves in his arsenal, does have a decent fadeaway, a good hook shot, a good kind of running floater kind of push shot, even has that in his bag too. So he does have a wide variety of ways to score within 5 to 10 feet of the rim. And he did show that during the draft combine too. Here in this play, for example, getting the ball in the low post, using a quick spin move to get the jump on the defender, then followed up by using his physicality to get directly at the rim, even employing a shot fake and pretty much getting exactly where he wanted to then finish his shot. And he showed that throughout the entire draft combine. During day 1 of scrimmage play, ended with 12 points and 2 assists, followed up by game 2 having 11 points and a few assists to go with that. Overall showing his offensive arsenal and what he can do with the ball. So definitely does have some skills and some other talents that other centers don't have in this year's NBA draft, which in regard to finishing ability around the rim, I think will translate pretty well to the NBA level for him. But then for his third and final weakness, I'd say this would be off-ball play in really ways not used to. I mean, during his time in the CBA, he had a large majority of the offense run around him and rarely if ever had to play off the ball. Whether he was getting the ball in the low post, or then getting in the high post and guys running around him, or him running DHO plays with ball handlers, or then pick and roll, he really didn't play off the ball that much and not much as a 3-point shooting spacer or a guy in the dunker spot, and probably a lot of what he will have to do in the NBA, which he's not really used to at this point. Again, very impressed by what he can do with the ball and in the low post, but how about when he doesn't have the ball? That's how NBA teams are going to want to use him and how he will have to adapt in the NBA right away. So how can he or will he be able to do it? That's up for debate. And overall here, I'd say the 3 primary strengths for Hansen Yang are number 1, low post scoring ability and what he can do with the ball, also involving his passing and playmaking vision, that's another strength for him. Then finally for rebounding, also a little bit of rim protection, but I'm a little bit skeptical on that. Again, like I mentioned with the athletic ability, isn't a great athlete, and will his rim protection translate to the NBA? Maybe, maybe not. So that's yet to be seen. Then for his weaknesses, I'd say what he really hasn't done off the ball, that's the third one I touched on. Then overall athletic ability, isn't a great athlete, doesn't have great lateral mobility, doesn't have a great vertical, isn't exceptionally fast or overall athletic in general, so that's yet to be seen as well. And then finally for 3-point shooting and overall floor spacing potential, both from a 3-point shooting standpoint and a lob threat vertical spacing standpoint, not really too great here for Hansen Yang. Maybe he'll do it, he's shown a little bit of it, but between the limited athletic ability and the rather poor free throw shooting, not terrible but below average for a big, I'd say it's probably a weakness for him as well and something he will have to prove wrong. And overall from a fit standpoint, I don't really love it for the Lakers. If he can get past some of his current weaknesses and develop either a 3-point shot or prove to be more athletic than what he showed during the draft combine or maybe what we didn't see in the CBA, then maybe he could be a decent fit, but not my favorite fit and not my favorite draft pick for the Lakers, either at 55 or if they would trade up. Again, plenty to like here about Hansen Yang, and I would love him for a 2-way contract, but I'm not sure I'd be willing to spend a draft pick on him and definitely not willing to trade up for him, given that the Lakers need more of a lob threat, a better rim protector, and a more athletic big in general that can either switch on defense or knock down 3-point shots and is a little bit more used to the NBA style of play. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about Hansen Yang as a draft prospect? Do you think he'd be a good fit for the Lakers, or what team would he be a good fit on? And would you spend a draft pick on him if you were the Lakers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.